Hello, and welcome to FiberOptic.com's FiberBase webinar series. This first series is going to be an overview of FiberBase's version 6.1 releases. The way that the webinars are going to work will be, there'll be 3 per month. They'll be Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. There'll be 2 webinars, the first 2 Wednesdays of each month. Each presentation will be 15 to 20 minutes, and questions will follow. When you answer your questions, put them in the question box at the bottom, and then we'll answer them after the presentation is complete. There'll be 1 mailbag or open session. It'll be usually the last Wednesday of the month. During holidays, they'll be scheduled the week before the holiday. Prior to this open mailbag session, send questions with mailbag in the subject line to FiberBase@FiberOptic.com. Email questions will be answered first, followed by any questions from webinar participants. Sales and questions related to your configuration should be sent to FBSales@FiberOptic.com. When the questions are done or an hour is up, the session will be over. Webinars will be recorded and put on our website. So to begin with today's webinar, it'll be features in FiberBase version 6.1. What we're going to start is something that we're really excited about is our work order tasks. It allows us to be able to create tasks within FiberBase and send them out to the field on an Android device. And the Android device can be either a mobile device, cell phone, or a tablet. You can create tasks from your current connection workspace session, or you can use existing sessions and send out those values out to the field. To give you an example of what that looks like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up FiberBase, and I'm going to go into the map workspace. In the map workspace, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 3 separate tables and connect them up in the connection workspace, and then send those connections out in the field. So I'll show you how that works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start up a connection workspace in the background so it remembers what we're doing. And let's create first a region in Iowa here. So I'm going to create a new region. Iowa, finish, zoom in just a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the 3 sheets. Something that was new in FiberBase 6 was the ability to create structures just by clicking on the start and end segments of your sheet segment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new FiberBase structure. Hit yes. It brings up the wizard. I'm just going to hit finish and let it fill in the data that was there by default. Here's the end structure. So I'm going to hit yes again. Finish. And then this would be the cable that I'm going to stretch between the 2 structures. Next, finish. Creates that cable. I'm going to create 2 more without comments going between. So there's the second cable. Now I'm going to create the 3rd cable. Create the last cable. Finish. And I've got 3 cables going between 4 structures. If we look in the background at the connection workspace I started, you'll see that we have cables going between. What we need is the splice trace to make the connections up to. So I'm going to bring up the Explorer and pick a splice tray out of the selection list. So I'll just copy that and paste that into each structure. I'm just going to hit Control D for paste. looks like I'm just going to create the new equipment right here. Copy it from a master. It'll be a splice tray. Finish. Oh, got the wrong cursor. That's right. I'm going to paste it into each of my structures. I had it in mass change instead of for the select mode. That wouldn't allow me to paste. So I'm going to copy, select everything, and I'm going to expand it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just connect the first two fibers for transmit and receive, going between this first structure out to the last one. So I'm going to select mass change mode, select the first two fibers in each tray, hit stage, then connect them up. Now I've got the fibers connected all the way from Makota out to Knoxville. Now in order to create a work order for that, what I'm going to do is start up our work order setup. And what I did is I hit 5 to go into the work order setup. And I don't have a work order or a project created for that yet, so I'm going to create a new project for this. So I'm going to create it from scratch. Call it webinar order file. I'm going to create a new project for it as well. Create that from scratch. I'll create the project, and I'll create the work order. And to fill the tasks in, if I hit this button here, what it allows me to do is it allows me to copy in all the connections that I've made, any connects or disconnects. I'll just copy those in, hitting that task button. And what it did is it then selected each of these connections that I've made. And you can see as you select them here, it also selects them back on the screen in the background. In order to set up the individual data, you can see that it shows the connections going here. There's no connections on the left side, but on the right side, it's connected up to, shows you which cable it's connected up to and the fiber and the binder that it's connected to. When you select items, you can either select one or multiple items and make changes to them. So what we can do is we can set a start date. I'm going to set the start date to be next Tuesday. And I can also set a date where it's due, and we'll set it for a couple of weeks after. We'll set it up for December 4th. And those values then get set in our values here. So you can see the start date has an estimated date for how long each task will go to complete, and you can set that up. And then the due date. And we can also set a status. So we can say that now it's planned to go out, and set all those up to be planned. What I'm going to do is I'm also going to add in 2 comments. So I'm going to add in one at this Makeda, and what it's going, I'm actually going to make this into an audit type of a command. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to name it audit ducks. And I'm going to tell the operator that what they need to do is they need to go and check to make sure that the ducts are clear going to their next place, which is rice field. So I'm going to say check to make sure there are clear ducts going to rice field. And set that. And I move that up to the top. So that'll be the first instruction that they see. I'm also going to add another instruction here at rice field. And that one's going to tell them to tell them to check the co-locate and make sure that it's open. So task mod to make sure co-locate is open when you arrive. It's set. I'm going to move this one here, I'm going to move that up to right for rice field. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to export that this whole set of instructions out into the field. So you can export the file, and then you can email it or put it in somebody's Dropbox and get it out to their file out in the field. I've got an emulator that I can run here in the background, so I'm going to start that up. While that's starting in the background, I wanted to show you something that you might be aware of, and that's how the projects look when you're looking in FiberBase. Some of you might be familiar and some might not have used them yet. So the way that the projects look in FiberBase is, I'm going to look at this Central Park one. And what you can do is you can have a project, and then you can have several work orders and work processes underneath each work order. And the work processes then follow along with the work order to tell what you're doing in that step. So for example, on this design phase, I'm going to change this to black and white so it's a little easier to see. You can see that you establish the right of way, you do all your purchasing and your drafting. The next work order is installation, so you can install equipment and pull fiber, et cetera, et cetera. You can also look at that in a Gantt chart and be able to see that. And I change it so you can see the colors. So you can see each step along the way and when it's due. You can see that this was due a couple years ago. It probably should be updated a little bit. Also, when you're looking at this, you can see the start dates and end dates and how they're all filled in inside the project chart. Okay, so now I've got the emulator up for the cell phone, and I wanted to show you what a work order might look like. So I reset this so that you're able to see what the different tabs might look like before you mark them as being complete. When you're looking at the cell phone or the tablet, normally what you'll do is you'll go into your Gmail account or your Dropbox or whatever, however you're sending out your database, and it'll have, for example, here's a task that was sent out. So I'm going to look at this one that was sent for Missouri, and then once you've got it loaded, you're able to download it into your download section of the cell phone. Then you can go into our FieldTask FieldTask application, and you can load that FieldTask up So I was loaded in the download, and it was this one here for Missouri. Hit OK, and you can see that here's an instruction for an audit. Reset this just so you can see what they look like. Here's one for an instruction. When you look at the separate tasks, you're able to see what the task is requested, and then you can put in any notes. So I've put in a note here that says there are two clear 2.5-inch ducts going to Green City after pulling sheets for this order. See the photo, so that you're able to attach a photo to it as well. In the photos, you just click on this photo icon, and this just is a permission setting inside of Android saying how to use the phone. You can use the button then to take pictures. After you take the picture, it'll hit save, and you can look here to see all the pictures that you've taken. So once you've taken a picture, you can either remove it by clicking on this plus minus, or you can preview it to click on the section up here, and here they've taken a picture and then put a note underneath that says these are the clear ducts. Once you've entered in the notes and done all that, you can go back to the task. Once a task is complete, so for example on this audit one, if that was complete, you can just click on the icon on the side and say it's done, and it'll give you a check mark, and it'll mark the date when it was complete along with the task. Excuse me. If you wish, you can separate the tasks by city. So I'm going to click on this structure one here, and what it's allowing me to do is to pick a city. So if I wanted to look at all the ones that were just available for St. Louis, I can click that, hit OK. And these are all the tasks that are just for St. Louis. Also, when I'm here, I can also click on the map icon, and it'll give me the directions from, I'm going to pick where I'm starting from. So I'm going to just pick the home. You'd be able to pick your home location, your hotel location or whatever, and then it gives you map directions using the Android services. And you can pick which route is the best one to go from your current location. You'd probably pick it from the hotel or from your office, and then out to the customer site. So it gives you the directions for how to get there. And you can go back to your application. And once it's all done, you'd send the file back. And once it's back, then let me show you how that would look. Close that. Close this one, and I'm going to open up another project. The project Workspace, and that'd be the Missouri one that we were just looking at. So this will be coming back from the FieldTasks, and you can see here it would show any ones that were completed. Change this to black. So you'd be able to see here any ones that were completed for the complete dates. You'd also be able to, there's a color by, so you can see any ones that have a note. So this one colors by the notes, so you're able to look at this and be able to select that item and be able to see. It also has a document, so it has a color by document as well. But it has notes here, so this is the note that they entered in on the phone. There are two clear 2.5-inch ducts going to Green City after pulling sheets for the order. See the photo, and then the photos are here. On photos, we've also added a description so that you can attach a description to the photo as well. So this one just says that these are clear ducts. We've also added in longitude and latitude on the photos. so you can tie the photos to your structure. So this one is type St. Louis. You'll be able to see the photos on the structure as well. That kind of gives you an overview of how it would look as far as the field task part. Our second part, so we went field task project. Okay, the next part would be exporting maps out to the field. To show you what that looks like, I'm going to just take the simple one that we have here for Iowa. I'm actually going to use a little bit more complicated one that's got some pictures that are already tied to it. Sorry. So this is going to a snapshot that I've got set up going for Philadelphia. And you can see that I've got some buildings and streets set up on the Philadelphia map. One of the things that kind of helps on the map a little bit is for all your different tooltips. You've got numbers now associated with it, so you can go between select mode and hand mode pretty easy to move the map around. You can also use the arrows to move the map left and right. So what I'm going to show you here is exporting out to your different file types. So I'm going to export it as, and it just exports the FiberBase layers. And so this here tells you, the first part tells you which directory it's going to store it in. So it starts in a subdirectory with today's date on it, so you know what time it was taken. And you can send it either as a tab file, KML file, or a KMZ file. The KML file uses the pushpin kind of nomenclature, and it won't send any pictures along with it. For people that can use the KML file like on their cell phones, but they might not, their application might not be strong enough to be able to support the photos and the icons. KMZ file would be more like for tablets and for desktops. And here on the KMZ file, you can export the icons of FiberBase. So that'd be like these manholes down here. You can see that they use custom icons. Here you have a central office at the building. Those you can export those instead of the push pin, and you can also include any documents. So that'd be any images that are associated with it. And then if some of your pictures are pretty big, you might want to resize them so it doesn't take a long time to bring it up inside of Google Earth or whatever you're looking at. If you're using tab files, you might be able to use either MapInfo Professional or I think programs such as QGIS to look at that. But QGIS is a free program. It's got satellite imagery and stuff as well, so you're able to load those. You hit OK, and then what it does is it stores the file to the directory, and then it brings up whatever application is associated with it. So since I have the KMZ file, it's going to bring up the FiberBase data with the KMZ file. And you can see I've got some stuff stored here at Pittsburgh and some stuff in Philadelphia. Change the orientation just a little bit. You can see that it's got the region area. I'm going to turn that off in just a little bit. It just makes it a little clearer to leave the region area in the background there for a little bit. When you double click on an item, it'll bring up the tooltips that are associated with it. If you have a document or a picture associated with it, it'll bring those pictures up as well. All this data here is the data that's associated with the tooltips that you'd set up in FiberBase. So that's the data that gets exported. When you look at this, you're able to, it's all set up by groups, and you can see it's just a little bit harder to see with once you've got all the things turned on. You're also able to do things like drag the little guy over to be able to get the street view, and then you're able to see exactly where you've got the FiberBase data routed. So that's the export portion, FiberBase. The next part that I'd like to show you is our drawing workspace. It uses Visio 2013 32-bit. We don't supply that as part of FiberBase. You can use your own Visio 2013, or you can purchase that from us. In FiberBase, you can use the Create as Drawing, which you're probably familiar with already. And it has excuse me, when you do the Create as Drawing, it creates those drawings into your own user folder. You can move those over to the global drawings if you want. It has drawings that are created in FiberBase and some that are also created in Explorer view. It has information tabs on the bottom of the windows. You can also export the Visio drawing out so that you can look at it with the Visio program or re-import those back into FiberBase. So let's kind of look at what that looks like. What I'm going to do is bring up this information palette here. Select this here and look at this ductwork here. You can see that I've got an outer duct and two inner ducts that are not filled, and then one inner duct that has a cable with 2 binders and 12 fibers inside each side. So I'm going to do a Create as Drawing with that. And it loads up Visio, and Visio is loaded as a sub window inside of our application. I'm just going to move this information palette over to the side, and you can see that I am this user here, Telus, and it created this here drawing. When you select the individual items, it selects in the data grid down the bottom below here, and you can use your column setup over here to set up which columns you want to be able to see for the individual fibers. Also, when you select something, it'll show you like a topology of the items. So this is the conductor that we've selected here, and then you can see that it on the ports and fibers that it's connected to out in the field gives you the data out there for exactly what it's connected to. Also inside of this, you're also able to look at it in an Explorer view. So, for example, when I open up this Pennsylvania one and look at Pittsburgh, you can see that it's just got a couple structures there. And then these are all the structures that are showing up in the main map. You're able to, this one here, it has for example, a floor view. When you look at the floor inside of this manhole, it now allows you to look at it as a butterfly drawing. So this shows you the floor of the manhole and then 4 different walls. And it's got a piece of equipment here, piece of equipment on the floor, and then cables coming in from the east side, south side, and the west side. And you're able to look at the cables. When you look at the different pieces of equipment, you can bring those up and show them as well. You're able to also show if there's any connections. I don't have any connections on this one set up yet, but for the equipment, you can see that it doesn't have connections. See if I full equipment set with the chassis. If you had equipment that was also connected, it'd show you the connections going through the equipment as well. It shows you all the different pieces of equipment that are loaded, as well as the ports. So that gives you, you're also able to take these drawings that you've either loaded in through this Explorer view or through the drawings that you created in FiberBase, and you can either export them out to Visio or import them in from Visio. It's drawing workspace. And there's a few miscellaneous features that we have as well. We've got saving tooltips, walls, and a connection log. The connection log allows you to be able to see all the connections that you've made since you upgraded to 6.1. So it isn't aware of any connections that you've made prior to loading version 6.1, but it'll keep track of all the connections that you've made since 6.1. The tooltips are kind of handy when you're looking at there's your FieldTasks. Pull that up. So when I have, for example, this is some Missouri connections that I made that we were looking at with the mobile device. You're able to take the work order that's associated with that. You're able to take the work order that's associated with that, and then you're able to export that out either to a mobile device, or else you're able to also export it here to a CSV file. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. You're able to take it here, and you're able to export that work order to a CSV file. I just got to save that. And then you're able to look at that work order as a CSV file. Okay, save it there. So to show you how that would look, you take the CSV file and just double click it, and you'll be able to see it in Excel. And it shows you all the work order things that are set up. Shows you all the project data that's associated with it, as well as any dates that are completed. If you've got costs that are associated with it, as well as who's assigned to it, and how much time it was to take. You're able to save that. Also, you're able to take, for example, equipment and be able to show that as a CSV file as well. It takes things that you've saved as tooltips and saves those to a report. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, let's just take a couple of splice trays here and just look at the ports there. So I'm going to take those and I'm going to export the selected ports out to a CSV file. Stage Connect test, save. Again, we look at the where those are stored. So it's a Stage Connect test one that I had set up, and these are the ports. The way that I've got my tooltip set up right now is this is the splice tray or the ports that we're looking at. So this shows you the path that's going from the region, the city, which splice tray it is, and then the chip that it's located at. And then it shows you what's connected on the left side as far as the sheath name, which binder and fiber that's connected to, and then the structure. So this is structure 1, structure 2 on that fiber, and then structure 1 and structure 2 on the right side. So that kind of gives you an idea of the major features that are in 6.1. If anyone is interested, you can also send those files out. You can send those files, a request to me at FiberBase@fiberoptic.com, and I'll send you the README file if you're interested in. If you have any questions related to sales or purchase, you can send them to fbsales@fiberoptic.com. Thank you very much for your attention today, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Thank you.